see what happens.
Yeah. All right. So we're back with another couple of movies. One of which you said you couldn't watch the second movie. You didn't have time or something.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for John Henry. I didn't watch the movie. Didn't have time to do it. I actually just finished the first one a couple hours ago. But I did watch the trailer to the second one. I didn't know it was a new film, but it actually looks like it was worth watching.
Yeah. Nearby gang shooting.
Well, do you know anything or much about the John Henry myth or the legend, if you will?
Well, I know the character was an ex-slave who was like a steel driver. He was the guy that took the hammer and basically drove holes in rocks so they could put explosives in there to like clear out stuff for the railroad. That's all I know about the character.
That is basically the story and the legend.
Yeah.
You don't really need to know. I mean, there's some more myth and lore. There's songs and whatnot, but that's basically it. And so, I saw it was a new movie, or it came out last year. It was Terry Crews, so they obviously got a big, jacked up looking guy, and he was holding a hammer. And I think I saw it was set in LA. I was like, okay, this is going to be a sort of modern John Henry using a hammer to smash bad guys. That was what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It really was not that. It cuts to some kind of I guess it was a whorehouse or something. And again, it's four people sitting around a table, and it's four dudes sitting around playing cards with guns, smoking weed, drinking Hennessy, and running their mouths. And it like the last movie I talked about, where I said it didn't feel like it was written at all, and it was just people talking. It felt like the same thing, just guys sitting there talking and running their mouths. And then it would pan over, and it was like a madam and a couple of girls. And then the girl runs away with a guy, and it turns out it's her brother. He came to rescue her. And then she disappears and ends up under the porch of a now grown-up John Henry.
I saw that in the trailer, yeah.
So, okay. All right, so this is what the movie's going to be about. John Henry is going to be protecting this Latina girl from whatever. And then the movie just kind of falls into this syrupy, like after school special kind of thing where he's looking after her and they're becoming friends. And the dad doesn't want her there. The dad's now like old and crippled, but he's still acting like an old OG.
That I had a stroke at 52 and lost all practical use of my penis.
What?
My dick was legendary, son.
And then it turns out they keep cutting back to that VHS footage from the 90s or whatever. And they do a whole big scene where it was a friend of his and who pushed him into like murdering somebody with his bare hands. 'Cause he was so big and strong, like John Henry, and he murdered somebody with his bare hands or his feet or something. Like he stomped somebody to death. And then, all right, he's gonna go straight after that. And then that friend, which turned out to his cousin, ended up being the big bad gang leader whose gang was kidnapping Mexican girls on the streets of LA to sell them into sex slavery.
Don't make me ask you again.
I didn't hear a question.
Man, what the fuck is your problem? You told me to snatch bitches, so I snatched them. How the fuck was I supposed to know our brothers were shooters?
You know, the Crips aren't snatching Mexican girls off the streets of LA. I don't think that's happening to the degree this movie made it seem like, you know? I believe Albanian gangsters are stealing girls in Europe. This, no. So anything, okay, this is gonna be a bad movie. At least have cool action with this guy murdering people with a hammer. At least give me that. At least give me Terry Crews with a sledgehammer murdering gangsters in LA. Like 30 minutes of that I would have been happy with. But it kept dodging all the fun things they could have done. Like they had this sappy, him befriending the Latina girl, and he was showing her drawings, and the brother came to try to get her, and it was just so stupid.
And woke up superhuman.
Not anymore.
Oh, and then the bad guy turns out to be Ludacris.
Yeah.
Who does, I think he was in the movie for like 6 or 7 minutes. And it turns out he got shot accidentally. And he had this comical like bar, like this gold band on his jaw that was, I've never seen that in my life.
Yeah, in the trailer I was
Like,
wondering
who
what
gets
the
shot
hell
in the
that
face
was.
and they get like I believe his name was Hell, is the name of the gang leader. And they would like, if they brought like a one of the soldiers down there who'd messed up, and they go down there, he goes, "Welcome to hell," and they go into like this dungeon. It was just so bad. There was like one time where I thought it was going to be fun, where he finally grabs his hammer, which it would just happen to be there. There was no reason for there to be a hammer other than his name was John Henry. He grabbed the hammer and was like, all right, he's going to go kill the gang leader with this hammer and murder all his guys. And like he swings that camera and then that's it. And then he goes inside and then it's just a shootout. So it was very disappointing. People were very mad about this movie. I think the IMDb page, and people were just like, "This is the worst movie. It's terrible," and with good reason, because not only was it bad, it was bad, and it completely missed the chance to be a fun action movie.
Well, it sounds like a wonderful film, and I really regret that I didn't watch it.
You bastard. So now you get to talk about Penitentiary 2.
Yeah. I'd be glad to talk about it because I actually enjoyed this one, despite how terrible it was.
Oh, okay.
And I actually felt like I didn't need to see Penitentiary 1. I didn't even need to. It like if I actually went back and watched Penitentiary 1 and then watched the second one, it wouldn't have added any value. I can just run down what's happening, or at least what I remember happening. So I guess in the first movie, there's a guy in the penitentiary, and apparently in some weird ass system of laws in whatever world this movie takes place in, you apparently can get paroled from federal prison by winning a boxing match. So he gets out of the penitentiary because he's a good boxer. So I guess that's a thing in this world, which is already hilarious. So that's how we start the second one. So he gets out of I don't know what happened in the first one. He was in jail, but he gets out of jail in this one. He goes and stays with his sister and brother-in-law and their little kid, and he's trying to play it straight. And then we find out about this guy named Half Dead, played by the incomparable Ernie Hudson, which was really, really weird seeing Ernie Hudson in this role. We can talk about that in a minute. But it was Ernie Hudson, which shocked me. We cut to him in the back of a car being driven by these two idiots, these two comic relief idiots that he was in prison with, I guess. And Half Dead apparently had a confrontation with the main character, whose name is Too Sweet. That's the protagonist's name. They had some kind of beef from prison. So Half Dead escapes. He finds out Too Sweet got out, and so he goes after Too Sweet for whatever stupid revenge reason. The movie didn't even make that clear at all. We don't even know what Half Dead's thinking. What his motivation is the whole movie. It was bad. It was stupid. That's the main the main plot of it. So a stipulation of him getting parole was also he had to go work for this boxing promoter because the boxing promoter was the warden's brother-in-law, if I'm remembering that right. She's like, all right, we'll parole you because you're a good boxer, and as long as you go and work for my brother-in-law, we'll parole you from prison. Okay. So he goes and does it, and he's like, I don't want to be a boxer. I want to just live a quiet life. So Half Dad comes and like murders his girlfriend.
Word. You do exactly what I say.
So now Too Sweet's like, yeah, I'm gonna box now, so I can, I don't know, so he can what? So he can learn how to box and then go after Half Dad? I don't know. It's stupid.
To the penitentiary.
The only reason you would have needed to see the first movie was to really understand why Ernie Hudson was after him so hard. And even characters would say, like, man, why are you going after Too Sweet, man? Why you care about him so much? But he just would say, shut up on me to kill this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what happened in that first movie that he was, other than they needed a bad guy for the second movie. But it was also just a straight up sports movie. It was a boxing movie. What does boxing have to do with this guy getting out of prison trying to kill me? And what does boxing have to do with avenging your dead girlfriend? I thought that, like, okay, the girlfriend died. What you think his motivation would be to go after Half Dad? But it was just, I think he said, I want to become the world champion and inspire the kids or something. Like, what's that got to do with your dead girlfriend?
I'm going to be champion of the world.
It's got nothing to do with anything, and that's why I just struggled so badly in trying to explain the continuing plot of this movie, because at no point did he actually ever get revenge or go after Half Dad, who was clearly the villain of the movie.
Let's go and kill this sucker and get it over.
No, this one's mine.
So it's just, the whole movie is so disconnected to what the character's past is, disconnected from what his storyline is supposed to be. There's no connection between anything. And once I realized that the movie was going to be that way, I just said, all right, cool. I'm just going to enjoy how stupid this is. I'm going to enjoy these ridiculous performances and all this improv and just very, very strange behavior of all the actors in this movie. If I could describe this film in one word, I would call it strange. It just didn't. It was so freaking strange, the way people were acting and stuff. I think we just have to break it down and talk about like specific moments, because we're not going to be able to talk about this thing beginning to end and have it make any kind of sense, because it doesn't.
Half Dead was like this psychopath, insane, murdering, and his two minions are complete idiot goofballs. It's like, why would he have these two guys working for him?
It was simple and do dirty, if I remember that right.
Do dirty, yes. Some of the names were pretty damn good in this movie. Half Dead, I think, is a great name for a character. I have to say. You're talking about, let's talk about moments from the movie. So, the first parts of the movie, it doesn't really matter. It's just him reuniting with his family. There was that stupid roller skating scene, which lasted 10 minutes, which I guess it was just for him to see his old girlfriend. But okay, they're all like roller skating. He just turns around and his ex-girlfriend, she was just standing right there behind him, and they just start making out from everybody.
She just shows up out of nowhere, no introduction to who this woman is, and he just turns around and she's there. Okay, I just real quick, I just have to point out one of my favorite things about the movie are all the extras that are on skates, and they're just standing around in a circle in this like courtyard, dancing on roller skates to this ridiculous, hilarious, funk music that's playing. But yeah, that scene.
Yeah.
But why did it take 10 minutes why was that scene 10 minutes? Because it was just people just standing around dancing, and then some nonsensical discussion between the guy and his girlfriend that didn't end up meaning anything because she's dead 20 minutes later in the movie. But why were all these scenes so long like that?
Yeah, you'd think it would be, he gets out of jail and he tells his sister, I gotta find my old girlfriend and get back together with her. And he, you think like that's the first 30 minutes, and then she dies, and then he gets to get revenge. But it's not like that at all. And then they go back to his sister's house, and I guess they're together now, and then they start going at it, and he starts trying to fill her up, and she's like, no, I don't want to do this. This is your sister's house. He's like, oh, baby, they're gone all weekend. And she's let's start again. No, I can't. I've never been with a man. And for our hero, he was a little pushy with the girl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I thought so too, yeah.
She was clearly not ready, and he was a little pushy. So then she goes, I got to go to the bathroom and clean myself up, or whatever she says. And there's Half Dead, who...
The whole sexual assault thing, which is always terrible. Even in a movie like this, like I don't want to see this. But it happens, and then the camera pans to her face. She's laying on the ground with her eyes open. And I just thought, oh, she's in shock about what happened. No, apparently she got stabbed and was dead. And then the next scene you see her, she's dead in a bathtub. So it's like there's no continuity. Like we don't know if she's alive, dead, or whatever until you see her in the bathtub. I'm just like, man, they just threw away this freaking character. I actually feel bad for the actress and the character as an audience member, just because she was thrown away.
So that leads to this confrontation where he's banging on the door, and I guess does Half Dead like bust the door open and then they start fighting? I don't know if they know how to film. This guy really knew how to film a fight scene, because I know he was trying to get like the intensity of it, but every frame of it just made me squirm, and it was just uncomfortable. And maybe it was because it was their performances, and I love Ernie Hudson, but he was so over the top. And not in the best way. Like when he was like super quiet and menacing, I thought he was good. And the lead actor, whatever his name is, Leon something.
Yeah.
I really, really hated him. That's one of the reasons why I didn't really like this movie, is because I hated his performance. I hated his face. I hated the way he talked. I hated his moist ass Jerry curl. I hated his line delivery, and like he would get choked and he'd make this, and he'd make these exaggerated faces. Okay, you want to talk about Ernie Hudson? Let's talk about Ernie Hudson.
Okay, so I enjoyed him in this movie. I thought he absolutely hammed it up beyond belief. Like you said, he was so over the top. Which I've seen Ernie Hudson in two things that I remember. One, obviously Ghostbusters, and we know the role he played in that. He was this down-to-earth kind of guy that represented the audience in a way. He was kind of trying to sort of keep up with he was an everyman. He's trying to keep up with what the guys were doing, learn about this ghost stuff. He's just a normal dude that needed a job, that came in. That's the kind of role it was. And the other thing I saw him in was Hand That Rocks the Cradle, and he played the mentally disabled, I guess, gardener, that kind of lived and worked with the family. And those are the only two things I've ever seen him in. Both of those, very such a departure from what we saw in this movie. It was just shocking to me to see him act this way in a movie. Because to your point, every scene he was in was 10 minutes too long. Every line that he delivered in the movie was so painstakingly, purposely said so slowly. Like he would, some of the scenes he was, he would be kind of quiet and menacing, and that fits the character. But he would say things so incredibly slowly, the other character would just be looking at him, waiting for him to deliver the line, and I'm waiting for him to say what he's going to say. Like, why are you saying it like this?
Again, we didn't see the first movie, and he's in the first movie. I think I need to watch a clip because I think the first movie is more of a straight. They're in prison. This guy is wrongfully sent to prison and has to deal with it, and ends up finding boxing, whatever. And Ernie Hudson is, the bad guy in prison. But I think he has his hair in the movie and he looks more normal. This one, he has that shaved head and no facial hair and that big Haskins gap. And he looks ridiculous. He sounded ridiculous. He acted ridiculous. And again, if he had played it like, when he's in the back of the car and he's just kind of menacingly sitting there, again, he was talking slow, but that would have worked if he kept it doing that. Then when he starts going insane and cackling and, holding a knife and doing whatever he was doing, it was very strange, like you said before. Not only in the context of this movie, but just because it was Ernie Hudson. And I've seen him in some movies, not a lot of movies, but he usually plays a cop, a soldier, a principal, a straight man. He doesn't. I've never seen him act like that before, and that's why I was just like, what is this?
They do on his head. Hey man, I'm gonna doodle on you if you don't hurry up. Right.
My favorite sequence of the movie was, he gets out of jail and he's in this rundown apartment, and this random woman comes in with this ridiculous, like, old woman gray wig on. First of all, why was she wearing that wig? There's lots of wigs in this movie. But she comes in there, and apparently it's his girlfriend or his woman or something. And he's just laying on the bed chilling, and she brings in a bucket of fried chicken and like some potato salad. And they must have spent 10 minutes just talking about how great this chicken place is and how good the potato salad is. And at some point, he asks her to get him a beer out of the fridge, and she gets it out. She drinks it herself instead of giving it to him. And he's like, bitch, I asked you to give me a beer. Why are you drinking it or something? He gets angry. He gets angry at her. And at some point, they go from talking about how good the fried chicken and potato salad is. They go from that to her pulling a knife out and trying to murder him.
You ugly. He don't show you
in the bed.
Yes.
So it goes from this, like, just kind of a chill scene, just character dialogue, to this murderous scene, and then a minute later, they're all of a sudden want to have sex with each other, and he puts her down on the bed and starts rubbing potato salad all over her face and all over his own face.
I'll take the job. Potato salad.
Oh my God.
Man, you know how much money we can get for this potato salad, huh? Look at this. Let me eat some.
So I watched it. I watched this movie in segments. So part of it I watched at home. Part of it I watched like when I was on my lunch break at work. I watched it like in different places, in my backyard in the fire pit, just trying to get through it. So that scene happened when I was eating lunch at work in the office building, and when he pulled the potato salad out and started wiping her face, I started laughing uncontrollably in my office building. I'm sure people were wondering what the hell was going on, but I lost it, man. I lost it on that part. That was the most disgusting scene I've ever seen in a movie. It was pretty gross.
I I don't care what body horror shit you want to show me. I don't care what nasty horror movie you want to show. That was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. I turned the movie off right there and went to bed.
Well, I had, like I said, man, I had just eaten lunch. Like I was on my lunch break when they did that. And just talk about terrible timing for that scene.
I mean, so yeah, that scene was great up until that point because, yeah, he's in that disgusting apartment and it's like, you know, I saw it like this is like his flop house. Like he busted out of jail and this is like some old hooker girlfriend he's gonna stay with so no one knows where he's at. Fine. She comes in with her nasty wigs. That's a thing with like, especially back in the day, black girls would have wigs, lots of wigs. Did you ever see the movie Car Wash? That's one of my favorites, but
I know of it. I haven't actually watched it, but yeah.
There's a character, she's like a prostitute hanging around the car wash and she changes her wigs a lot. So that's the thing. That's a little character trope in blaxploitation, black movies that actually worked for me. That was fine. But she was so old. She was like 60 years old. Like, this is his girlfriend? She's like 30 years older than him. And yeah, they kept talking about the chicken. You'd think he'd be talking about plans. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna lay low here, but when I get my shot, I'm gonna go after two. No, they're just talking about chicken. I guess he didn't.
Yeah, what made it funny is she was going to kill him, and then he smashes the potato salad in her face, but he does it in like a sexual, playful way. And she's like, just like eating it. She's trying to eat it and stuff, and like she's enjoying it or something. It's like, where is the tone of this movie? That's the scene that made me realize this movie is just full of shit. I mean, I already knew it was, but it just completely. Almost purposely just trying to mislead you and make you laugh and just make your head spin, because the tone of the movie goes from murder to sexual to like comedy in the span of 5 minutes, in the span of 10 minutes, and it's just it keeps doing that. So like every 15 minute sequence of the movie goes from somebody's mad and wants to kill somebody, or somebody wants to have sex. The same people didn't want to have sex, and then something just stupid and slapstick happens, and it's just like a repeating cycle all through the movie. And once I realized that's what this movie was, then I really started enjoying it and could really laugh at it.
I'm assuming there had to be some influence from something where somebody said, this needs to be funny. We need some slapstick goofball shit in here. And so then you get his two buddies in the car, you get a lot of the prison stuff, you get Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Little Tony.
Yes.
Is it Tony Cox? Tony Cox or Tony Cole? Or I can't remember what his name is.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track. Yeah. I was trying to think about who that was, and then I thought about Miss Parker from Friday.
Yes. Too sweet because decides he's gonna box. Let's just jump around a little bit. And suddenly he's being trained by Mr. T, whose name is Mr. T.
Yes, Mr. T plays Mr. T. His characters never have another name. They're just always Mr. T.
And then, all right, he's gonna box, and everybody just thinks he's the most amazing boxer for some reason. He didn't look that special to me. He looks like, you're gonna be amazing. You gotta box. All right, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna be the champion. And so his first fight is back in the prison. For some reason, like, you talk about what world does this movie take place in? I don't know, because how are there sanctioned fights in prisons? And all the prisoners are there, like holding up signs. There's a jazz band playing, made up of prisoners.
Yes.
Like a 70s fusion, like Lonnie Liston Smith jazz band is playing in the crowd.
And they hired 2 professional fight announcers to come into the penitentiary, set up their gear, arrange the television broadcast from a federal prison. One of them being
national TV
the heavyweight champion of the world was their broadcast. It's just, what? I don't get it.
Like, why didn't they just make him fight a regular fight? Like, why are they in this prison other than we have to because it's called Penitentiary too? And they're all the prisoners are there. They're like gambling in the corner, and Mr. Parker's in there rolling dice, and he's got all the money, and he decides there's hookers here. There's hookers there. He crawls under the ring, sees a girl. He must know she's a hooker, and he's like, "Hey, baby, how much?" Like, he instantly propositions her with money. Like, Mr. Parker has to roll dice with money and have sex with a hooker under the ring of a boxing match taking place in a prison.
Yeah,
like, I
liked the Mr. Parker little stuff. I thought he was one of the better parts of the movie as far as like the comic relief stuff goes.
Yeah, it was funny. It made absolutely no sense. But like you said, once you just check your said, all right, this is basically a farce now. This is not a real movie. This, forget it. That's then it became fun. Okay, so there's another character that shows up called Seldom Seen. Seldom. That
Seldom
old
Seen,
guy who was that a wig and a fake beard? Because that was the weirdest looking human. He looked like a wolf man, like a black wolf man. He was a strange looking guy, and he gets out of prison, and then they go to pick up girls at the club. And he's like, "Man, will you dance with my friend?" And he sits down, and he's got his arms on the girls. Too Sweet does. And I'm like, didn't your girlfriend just get violently murdered and raped right in front of you? Why are you picking up girls now?
He's bad, beautiful, and he's looking for action.
O2 will come through.
So then he gets his rematch with the Bull, and for some reason I want to fight him on his turf in the penitentiary. How is the world champion? Is he in prison, or are they just fighting at the prison? Like, what's happening?
None of the plot points are words in the script that relate to the penitentiary. You're not going to be able to find anything that makes any sense at all. We could just keep talking about how much about the penitentiary scenes doesn't make sense, and it would be an hour-long video. It's just hilarious that even down to like the signs people were holding, the choice of extras that were supposed to be prisoners in that penitentiary. Like, there was a 15-year-old white boy with a white boy haircut as one of like the guys that was cheering during the last fight. It's like, this guy's not in federal prison. Yeah. He's not a federal prisoner. There's no way.
And then they had the women's prisoners there, and it was like she was like a Mom's Mabley type, like a big, loud, like, and she was just screaming, like, who is this woman? And she had this, and she even said, like, I'm gonna be a man. She had like a deep man voice. I'm like, what's happening?
But it was men playing those parts, wasn't it? It was like 4 or 5 like male actors dressed as women.
No, that was a woman.
Well, okay, the one standing behind her looked like a dude, and the other guy behind him looked like a dude.
Okay,
because I thought that was like part of the comedy. Okay, I thought that was something they threw in to try to like make us laugh. Like, there's dressed up like guys as women. Yeah.
Oh, like there's trans like women or men dressed as women in prison. Oh, I didn't even think about that. I swear that was a woman though.
Okay, well, he or she may have been, but yes, I think some of them were dudes, and I just took that as they were like, I don't know, like a trans weird kind of thing. And of course, in 1982, you could get away with that shit. Like, you couldn't do that now.
So yeah, then the fight starts, and then Half Dead sneaks in with his clown wig when Too Sweet all of a sudden is a Muslim and has to go do his prayers.
Yes. So he got the rug. He got the rug out. He got the rug out, and I assume he pointed it east, and was going to do a Muslim prayer, getting all the way down, and then he just sits there and does the stupid like yoga meditation thing. It's like, what's going on? Why is this character all of a sudden a spiritual meditation kind of dude? Because we didn't see that throughout any of the movie up to this
Never
point.
Mentioned it.
So what's happening?
No.
Well, the first thing I thought was
they
like,
just needed a reason for him to be alone.
Okay.
They needed a reason for him to be alone so Ernie Hudson could come in and beat him up. That's the only reason. But like, set that up. Like, have him, like, whatever. So he beats him up, which this guy's a professional boxer and he keeps getting his ass kicked. Beats him up, chokes him, kicks his ass, tells him to lose the fight or his goons are going to kill his family because they're at his house. And he put all his money on him.
Right.
I'm sorry, put all his money on the bull.
We skip that. So that's like one of the only plot points in the movie that actually makes sense. Is Ernie Hudson smart enough to say, I'm going to bet against this dude and then I'm going to sabotage him so I can win a bunch of money. That's like the only thing I said, okay, yes. Good. You did okay when you wrote this scene. The rest of it, complete mess.
But that should have been like the whole buildup of the movie. It just happened like in an instant. And then he smashes his hand so he can't use his left hand. So he's fighting like one-handed and he's basically just ducking and dodging throughout the fight. And again, the fight with Bull guy is just like, these guys don't even look like they're in the same weight class, by the way. The Bull guy was like 30 pounds heavier than him. And the guy's just trying to kick his ass. He's ducking and dodging with his one hand. And Mr. Parker finally gets his hooker into the ring after he wins more money. And they keep cutting to the family being held by the goons. And the goons are getting drunk, which I guess is a setup because you think they're going to get drunk and they're going to escape. But it was like, why even put that in the movie? Like, again, they're comic relief, so I'm not scared at all for this family. I know they're going to get out of the situation. Like, either make them funny and comic relief and don't put that in, or make them serious, and then I'm going to buy this, like, they're holding the family at knife point. You know what I mean? The guy goes, man, I said, give me some of that red wine. And he goes and gets a bottle of pink wine.
Yeah, he gets like rosé or some shit like that. It's not even right.
First of all, I don't think they had rosé in 1980. It was probably like strawberry wine or some crap like that. So yeah, they're cutting back and forth with the family and the boxing match, and I guess it was pretty fun just because it was so ridiculous. And then Mr. T just leaves the match. What happens? And he goes back into the dressing room and finds half dead. How does that happen? Because that's the big fight. That's the big fight, not the boxing match. Is Mr. T and Ernie Hudson.
Gonna break every bone in your body. Got you down, punk. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna torture you. Punish
you. Yes. Yeah, I was delighted to see that fight play out, but we didn't really get to see much of it. They would throw a punch and Sonya would fly against the door, and then as soon as that happened, they would cut back to the other boxing match.
Yes.
And I just thought, go back to the Ernie Hudson, Mr. T. I would rather watch that than anything in this whole fucking movie.
There, I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. Like, I was expecting like a, epic battle with Ernie Hudson and Mr. T. But they just kept cutting it. Like, let this play out, man. But it was fun to watch what little they showed. But how did Mr. T get back there? Did he just walk away from the ring?
I have no freaking idea, because there's so much going on and so much camera panning and cutting fight, and I guess there's probably a scene where Mr. T like ducks out and goes back there and happens upon Ernie Hudson, who's up to no good, wearing a clown wig in the back of the freaking locker room, and then just starts fighting. Hey, you're not supposed to be here. I'm gonna kick your ass now.
Yeah, why were they fighting? Like, Mr. T doesn't know Ernie Hudson is doing all this stuff, does he? He just sees a guy in a clown wig and starts kicking his ass. I'm going to kill you.
I mean, if I saw Mr. T in real life and I was wearing a clown wig, I would just assume he wanted to kick my ass too. So, I mean, don't question it.
So, you're always going to find some random actor in some of these movies. You think, that's who that is, or I know I recognize that face from somewhere. So, and a lot of these, especially a lot of these black movies, where you're going to find more of a crossover between people with real acting talent, because a lot of them couldn't get roles in other movies, so they had to take these shitty, B movie blaxploitation roles early on in their careers. But black actors, you'll see it where they're in these kind of movies, not only early in their careers, but even as they get older, when they couldn't get other roles just because there was only so many roles for black actors in Hollywood. So even though movies like this are terrible, they serve a purpose for, in some way where a legit actor can, get a role, do his best, say, hey, look, I know this movie's terrible, but I played this part of a lawyer and blah, blah, blah. So
I'm thinking, so I'm going to cut you off, but I remember the whole Ernie Hudson thing. I remember kind of being shocked after seeing him in this, that he actually got the part in Ghostbusters 2 years after.
2 years, yeah.
2 years after his ridiculous over-the-top performance in this, they somehow gave him a chance to be in Ghostbusters. It's just kind of surprising.
That's why the 80s were so great, is because you could do whatever you wanted in a movie.
Yeah, exactly. There's a whole lot more. Yeah, there's a lot more sexual comedy starting, I guess, in the 80s. There's a whole lot more physical comedy that kind of happened. Like another movie I'm thinking of is Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That's not necessarily a comedy, but it had a lot of like sexual humor in it, physical humor, stuff like that. It just seems like it just took off when the 80s got here. And this movie's no exception. And it just felt just like that.
You're right. Yeah, it absolutely, pulled in those comedic elements. And like I said earlier, I think if this movie had been made right after, like in 1980, probably wouldn't have had those comedic elements. But 2 years later, the studio or whoever said this needs to have more comedy in it, and that's why it became so silly, which completely wiped out any belief that this is a real movie, but made it more fun. And honestly, I wish they would have made it gone even further, and took out the revenge and all of, and just made Ernie Hudson more of a clown than what he pretended to be.
But the interesting thing that I found a little bit interesting about this one that I wanted to talk about was the guy that directed this movie. He changed his name to something weird, but his original name was Walter something. He went to UCLA film school in the 70s. He's actually a college-educated filmmaker. And when I was watching the movie, despite all the silliness and just the bad writing and the ridiculous scenes and performances, there was something about the movie where I thought, whoever is directing this actually kind of knows what they're doing. Because the transition between the scenes, how the story progresses and stuff, even though it's a stupid ass story, it actually, it makes sense. You can actually follow it. It was actually directed half competently, in my opinion, versus something like, the last one we talked about, the 1 Down 2 to Go, whatever. It was just directed badly. The choice of scenes, the transitions, all that stuff, it was just a badly made film. This felt like somebody knew what they were doing with the most ridiculous material they could have been given.
Yeah. So this is funny. So the last time we watched a movie from the early 80s and a movie from the last couple of years, this time we did the same thing. And in both cases, the completely stupid, ridiculous, over-the-top movie from 30 years ago was way more enjoyable than the modern movie.
Yep.
Which...
All right. I think we pretty much covered this one.
Yeah. Guys, think about that potato salad. It still makes me sick. God.
I laughed so hard at that, man. As gross as it... Oh, it's so funny.
That scene ended. I was watching on my little device. I turned it off. I was like, I can't. This was sickening. So, I have a strong stomach. I've hauled dead cows out of the pasture that have sat in the sun. Like, I've done some gross things in my life. I worked at a sewage treatment plant. I have a strong stomach. Seeing Ernie Hudson and that woman in the potato salad just almost sent me to the toilet. So.